is since we last talked a month ago, like the community membership has boomed. Even these numbers are like a little bit out of date because we're at almost 600 members and supporting like 160 nonprofit organizations in the community. And we've just been collecting a lot of really good data as we're doing so much testing right now to see who is engaging in the community, what's inspiring people, what are the needs. And so we collected some of this data about like, you know, our community members, the nonprofits are really wanting certificates, wanting more networking time. So we're looking at how we're going to build events around that. And then I think our next step is like, okay, engagement, and then figuring out how folks are applying knowledge that they learned in the community to their own work. So it's exciting. And we're still building our fellows community. I think in the group, we have about 38 fellows right now. So we're looking to grow that. And I welcome any and all ideas for building the community and topics and guest speakers or anything like that. So you can reach out to me, post in the community, whatever works. But I wanted to introduce you to Megan Cormer and Morgan Cormer. Sorry, Morgan, sorry.
It's okay. I surprisingly get Megan a lot, so I just answer to it.
Yeah, and I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then I know you and Julie were going to talk more about our partnerships.
Yeah, of course. So good morning, everyone. Or yeah, I guess it is probably morning for most of us. My name is Morgan Cormier. I am the development associate at Flying Kites on our US team. I have been with Flying Kites in this capacity for about 2.5 years now, but I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to actually intern for Flying Kites in Kenya when I was graduating college in 2016. So I've kind of seen their growth and was super excited to come back on board in a professional capacity and continue to move our mission forward.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, we're so excited that you're here, Morgan, and excited to hear more about Flying Kites. So I just want to say hello and introduce myself if we haven't met. I'm Julie Klugage, the co-founder and executive director at Team for Tech, and love our fellows. So excited for these Fellows Fridays. So Morgan, let's start out, like if you could just share more about Flying Kites. What is the mission? What has been some of the impact for the organization as a whole?
Yeah, of course. So at Flying Kites, we believe that every child deserves an access to a high quality education, and that access to a high quality education is the path out of poverty. So our model is centered on partnerships that we have with resource poor primary schools in our rural district in Kenya. So we have a teacher training center, which has really been a focal point of our partnership with Team for Tech, and a primary school academy, Flying Kites Academy. And that is kind of the hub of our model, where we design different programs, pilot them, find out what works, and then we scale those programs to these resource poor schools. We are in rural Kenya, so oftentimes the schools that we're serving have really poor infrastructure. They might not have access to water and food at school. Some of our schools are still struggling to get reliable electricity, never mind access to the internet. So our goal is to support schools and support our community in 3 ways. The first is by training teachers, which happens at our teacher training center. The second is to invest in girls. So we have a Girls United program that's really focused on providing health information, resources, support, and mentorship to vulnerable girls in our community and ensuring that they can stay in school and complete school. And then the third is by supporting the schools in our network with things like school meals programs, access to clean water, improved wash infrastructure like toilets and hand washing stations, so that the students are being supported holistically. And our hope is that they can graduate from Class 8 and matriculate into secondary education and continue to build upon their skills. So that's kind of a brief overview of what we've accomplished over the past 15 years. This is actually our 15-year anniversary this year. So that's very exciting, and we're kind of looking forward to what the next 5 years are going to look like and expanding our impact across hopefully every school in our district. So that will bring us from 9 schools in our network to 45, hopefully in the next 5 years is our goal.
Wow. Going from 9 to 45, is that what you said? That's a big
Yes.
jump. Wow.
Yeah.
So how many students are reached now in the 9 schools?
So the school year in Kenya just started about 3 weeks ago. So our updated numbers are showing we have about 5,100 students, and I believe 174 teachers right now in our network. The way we kind of operate is by looking at the needs of the primary schools in our district and targeting schools who really have a high need for our programs. And so through our partnerships, we will, communicate with their board of management, which is kind of like a parent-teacher association, and then community leaders to discuss what the partnership would look like. And then we start rolling out our different aspects of our program. So the great thing about certain program aspects like our tech training is that we hope to eventually be able to implement a training of trainers model, whereby the teachers who have been trained at our tech resource center can then bring that training to other teachers out in our larger community and reach more schools and students that way.
Awesome. That's great. Well, you guys became a Team for Tech partner in 2021, so it's been a couple years. I'm curious, what made Flying Kites want to apply to be a Team for Tech partner?
Yeah, so it's interesting because Nairobi is such a huge hub for tech and advancements and using different media and access to the internet. However, we're just 2.5 hours north, and a lot of the members of our community don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to a lot of the learning platforms and different resources that you can have access to if you're connected, if you're plugged into the internet. And so we also realized that with the rollout of a new curriculum nationwide in Kenya, there are huge focuses on implementing tech in the classroom and creating digital literacy amongst students. But the big gap is that a lot of our teachers are not literate in terms of using the internet, using tablets, using computers. And so we're trying to fill that gap of how can we train teachers and provide them with the hardware, with the actual resources to then go and implement that in their classrooms. And so something that's been so pivotal with our partnership with Team for Tech is that, one, we're learning, okay, what computers should we use? What would access to internet with the installation of the internet mast that was put in last year, how can that transform our work? And then moving through to what types of training, what types of skills do these teachers need to then take that learning into the classroom? And so it's kind of been twofold in terms of the actual technical part, the hardware, and then also coming up with the curriculum and how to implement it and how to track engagement of teachers who are enrolled in our teacher training center. And so this partnership has kind of helped us on both fronts, which has been really incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah, great. And Amy, if you want to show those social media posts, we can take a look at the projects that we've done. We've basically had volunteers from Cadence and from NetApp work with Flying Kites. Peter, remind me, did you work on a Flying Kites project?
No, I've never first experience with Flying Kites, but I just finished the refugee in Nairobi, so I'm familiar with Kenya.
Yeah. So other of your Cadence colleagues worked with Flying Kites. But here you can see just a couple of the social media posts from the volunteers who worked with Flying Kites, some pictures of their students. And then I loved this social media post on the right when I saw it. And it was the day that the internet tower got set up on campus. So Morgan, can you tell us a little bit more of like the scopes of work of these projects and what have you seen as like some of the impact of these projects?
Yeah, of course. So we can start off with the internet mast. The installation of that, which was made possible by Team for Tech, has been so transformative for our academy and for our teacher training center. previously we had a lot of connectivity issues. So even at our own academy where we're trying to create a resource hub, we did not have reliable access to the internet. So this has been so helpful for not only the teachers who are coming onto campus. I believe last year we had about 160 teachers in total who had attended teacher tech trainings on our campus. So that helps to support those, and then also our students. And, you know, I know we're going to talk about long-term goals in a little bit later, but something that we're so looking forward to is hopefully being able to open up our campus to even hold tech events for community members, for parents who want to, you know, understand technology so that they can then support themselves and also their students who are learning these things in school. So that's something we hope to implement in the future, and it's been a huge game changer. But in addition to that, another project, which I think was one of the first things that we partnered with Team for Tech on, was really creating an outline of what we want our tech resource center to look like on campus, in terms of, like I was speaking about earlier, what technology, what hardware is going to work best for our context. And then the Team for Tech volunteers, I believe from Cadence, helped to kind of draw out a budget of what we need, how much it's going to cost us, and what the impact is going to be. So that was super helpful to us as, you know, at Flying Kites. This was pre-Christopher, who is now our ICT programs manager. We didn't really have someone who had that knowledge to make the best choices for our context. So that was kind of the catalyst of all of these other projects that we're able to accomplish. And then the other thing that we worked together with was coming up with what our curriculum should be and how to best implement our curriculum for the Teacher Training Center. We have since made some adjustments based on user feedback. We previously maybe overestimated some of the abilities of the knowledge that teachers had of accessing technology, you know, depending on where our teachers come from and the access that they've had. So we have been able to actually take that initial curriculum and then, using our participant feedback, create a modular curriculum whereby some teachers who have never used a computer before can come in and they're learning the basics of, you know, turning on a computer, using a mouse, how to navigate to the internet. And then we have other modules for teachers who might be ready to go to the KICD website and download lesson plan ideas from the Kenyon curriculum, or access videos that they can show in their classrooms, things like that. So we've been able to kind of aggregate, and our partnership with Team for Tech has helped create the tools that we use to then measure the impact and how teachers are moving through the program, which has been really helpful for us to see what's working, what's not working, and to track the impact that we're going to have.
That's awesome. Great. Well, I know that we all like to see personal stories of how people are impacted by this work. So I'm excited you guys have some awesome videos. I think we're going to look at a short video here about one of your students, and then would love to hear you share, you know, other impacts you've seen on a personal level. But yeah, let's roll the video.
This is a story of a girl who was born into a life stacked against her, who lived in a farm that never received rain, and sold in a market that never saw customers. A girl who drank from a river because there was no well, and endured pain because there was no other choice. A girl who watched her friends go to school while she had to stay at home. A girl who promised herself that when she grew up, she'll never let her own daughter live the life she led. She'll climb mountains and cross rivers before she let another child repeat her life. And the reason I stand here today, it's because that girl was my mom. A girl who believed just because I was born into poverty didn't mean that I had to stay there. A girl who gave everything so that I can stand here today. And because of my mother and the education that I have received, this legacy is the one that I can pass to my own children someday. Because it was my mother who taught me, the more you give to others, the more you have for yourself.
It's so beautiful. I saw Pragati crying and then that made me start crying. It's just a really moving video. Tell us more about your students and, you know, the impacts that you've seen.
So that video was of Doreen, who is a Flying Kites Academy graduate. So the school that we were seeing in the video is our Academy and Teacher Training Center. And so she graduated in 2020. She's in secondary school now. And as I mentioned before, you know, we are working in resource poor primary schools, and oftentimes the teachers that we're serving are not being supported, don't have access to the support that they need to really, you know, be the best educators that they can be. And so that's really where we're trying to come in and fill that gap. And so one particular story, we had a teacher who is going through our tech training program. Her name is Lucy. She's a lower primary school teacher, and prior to coming on campus and joining these trainings, she had never touched a laptop, had never used one, had no experience with the laptop. And she was, you know, being charged with bringing digital literacy to her classroom and using technology in the classroom. And so through these workshops that we've been holding on our campus, going through from the basics of turning on a computer through downloading resources, creating lesson plans, all of those things, she has now gained the skills to not only for her own professional development, understand the use of technology, but then also bring that into her classroom and share with her co-teachers. And kind of born out of this idea of the training of trainers, we have selected tech patrons at each of our schools. So teachers who are really invested in using technology, have a real interest in it, and have shown great growth throughout their time at our Teacher Training Institute, are now kind of the point people at their own schools. So if someone has a question, you know, Christopher, who's our ICT programs manager, can't be at 9 schools every day. And so by empowering these teachers who are showing growth and interest in this program, they can kind of serve as that point person to answer questions, to help their colleagues navigate the use of the government laptops and tablets that schools oftentimes have but don't use because previously they haven't had the capabilities to. So that's been something that's been really great for us to see, you know, some educators really taking it and running with it, and then also being able to serve as that person in their school community. That's what we can hope for, which allows us to then expand to more schools and bring in more teachers to our teacher training program. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, tell us briefly what you're excited about. Well, like what are you looking forward to collaborating with Team for Tech on going forward? Yeah.
So I know we're actually about to start another project with Team for Tech, which we're super excited about. I got to sit on that call on Wednesday, I believe, going over what that project is going to look like with my colleague, Katie, who many of you, some of you I know have worked with previously. And one thing that we're really looking forward to is coming up with a way to actually digitize our Girls United curriculum and training our Girls United patrons to use tech resources to disseminate information about sexual reproductive health, and also make those resources available on the tablets that our primary schools all have access to at their schools. So that's one thing that, like, personally, I'm always really passionate about how we can support the girls in our community. So super excited about that. And then we also are looking to build out more resources in terms of monitoring impact, because we have gone through that change of our modular curriculum to kind of meet our teachers where they're at. So, you know, leaning on the expertise of the volunteers who will be joining that team to kind of figure out the best way to track progress, and then also create some infrastructure in terms of monitoring teacher and student data, which is something that's so important as an organization for us to have and to show the impact of these programs. So in terms of our upcoming project, those are two things I'm really excited about. And just continuing to learn from people who have far more tech expertise than myself. So that's been exciting for us as an organization as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Morgan. We are so honored to be your partner, and we really appreciate you being here today. Love hearing these stories. So thank you. And Amy, I think we're going to pass it back to you for closing announcements.
Yeah, I'm also curious if anybody on the call has any questions, anything they're curious about they wanted to ask Julie or Morgan or any of us? No? Okay, well, do reach out if any questions come up about what we're doing. And I'm going to share my screen again. So I'm really curious from our group, as we are building our community of fellows, just what type of speakers do you want to see in the community? I'm curious if any fellows want to share their own story and experience as a volunteer, or if there are other ideas you have. And I'd love for you to put in the chat any ideas that you have that we could make this community better, and to help it grow and feel connected with each other. And I will take all of those ideas and, you know, compile them. We'll talk about it within the community of practice too. And we can go from there and build together. But I appreciate it. And I can't see the chat right now. So if any great ideas come up, I'm going to capture them. And then I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay, because we have some events coming up in the community of practice. I put a little QR code here where you can register for the community, and then you're going to have access to all these events beyond just the storytelling events. And you are welcome to come to all of them. So Lindsay, I'm going to turn it to you.
Yeah, each week we're adding new events. Some of these events are kind of geared toward a specific group in our community. We have regional hub events for our Sub-Saharan Africa group. We have regional hub events for our Southeast Asia group. We have some events for our community partners, but we're highlighting a few here that I think would be great for fellows to join. Kind of at the top there, we have Ian Kishore, who is coming in from Benetech. He is the CEO, and he's going to talk to us about Bookshare. I don't know if you've seen this resource, but it's pretty amazing, and it makes reading easier with the world's most extensive ebook library for people with reading barriers. So really excited for that event. We're also doing a design thinking workshop. This is going to be a special event that's about an hour and a half, and Team for Tech is going to help facilitate this with our nonprofit partners. But fellows, so many of you are experts in design thinking that it would be wonderful to have you come to learn and maybe to share and help facilitate that. You would just be such a great addition to that event. And then we have an AI and Intel resources for nonprofits to use. So we're going to be joined by the Global Director of Digital Readiness Programs and Strategy at Intel. And he's going to share what Intel is working on and resources that are available to all. So those are just a few. Again, you can always find those in the community of practice under the events tab, and we welcome you to anything that you see there. And then the ongoing series, Amy.
Yeah. So we are figuring out who our next nonprofit partner is going to be for our March event. So stay tuned. I will post it in the community and I will send an email out to folks. But again, it's the third Friday of every month from 8 to 8:30. In the meantime, reach out to me or Lindsay or Julie or anyone on the team if ideas come up, or post it in the community. And that's it for me. I hope everyone has a wonderful, beautiful weekend.
Great seeing everyone. Have a great weekend. Thanks again, Morgan.
Yes, thank you all.
Morgan,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.